Hello again, and this is part 3 of What If Kamen Rider Kabuto Was in My Hero Academia, so let's start. Chapter 5 Broken Pride. I don't own Kamen Rider Kabuto or My Hero Academia. The festival continued. Shinji was watching the fights play out. He had been trying to be far away from Mei. After she got interested in him, she's been trying to get to know more about the Zectors and to marry him as well. Her match with Tenya was a joke since she used him as a test dummy to test her gadgets, and she left the arena giving him the win. Mina won her match and got happy. She then looks at him and waves. Shinji waves back at her with a smile. Then Momo vs Fumikage started. He used his shadow to push her back while she used a sure ledge she made to block his attacks, but then she was out of bounds without knowing and lost the match. Shinji walks up to her. He puts a hand on her, getting her attention, and he said, "Hey, don't worry, you might have lost, but there's still more chances in the future, so don't give up hope that easily, just learn from your mistakes." Momo got surprised, but she then smiled and said, "Thank you, Shinji." He nodded with a smile, but then he heard Mei from behind him, "Hey, Shinji." Shinji then turns around surprised and said, "A handsome. Oh, come on, call me Mei. After all, we're going to get married. Did you like my babies? I made him to be the best as they can be. If you let me look at one of you insects, I can make them better." Mei said, and then Shinji ran away. "Wait for me." She then starts chasing him again. Momo stares at Mei and didn't like the fact she was forcing her friend and classmate to marry her. Shinji managed to escape Mei and was now in the halls of the stadium. He walks around and then sees Endeavor there, a person that he hates, a man that calls himself a hero but didn't have the views of one outside of some stupid competition between him and All Might. "So you're the quirkless student that thinks that others quirkless can be heroes?" Endeavor said. "Yeah, that's me, so what?" Shinji asked. "You actually give the other quirkless the delusion that they could become heroes. You only got lucky because the headmaster felt sorry for you." Endeavor said that made Shinji get angry. "How about this, I'll buy your little insects since they can prove to be useful to me." Then Shinji puts a hand in front of him. "Stop right there, let me tell you something. Wanna know why people will still call you second best? It's because you don't have a heart of hero." Shinji said, surprising Endeavor, "You care about that reputation instead of trying to help others, so if anything I should sorry for you to think that you need your son to surpass All Might when you can't even do it yourself. That's just called giving up in the sins that you did." He then walks past him, makes you just as worse as the villains. That made Endeavor shocked. No one compared him to a villain, and now a kid was telling him that. Shinji continues to walk, and he then found a staff member being Recovery Girl in the middle of the hall. "Shinji, it's good that I found you. There's something I must tell you before the tournament begins again," Recovery Girl said, making Shinji interested. The next match started, and it was Bakugo vs Ochako. Shinji was watching with Izuku and Tenya. The match started and she goes after Bakugo while he snads there. She might have a chance if she touches him. Bakugo then blasts where she was and she blocks it with her arms. She tries multiple times while Bakugo just kept blasting her. After so many tries, she touched multiple pieces of the arena and then releases her quirk, making them fall towards Bakugo. He then points his arm up and she touches his arm, but then he sent an explosion, throwing her off and destroying the pieces. She still tries to go on, but then she lost all her strength and fell to the ground, and Bakugo won the match. Shinji narrowed his eyes and got up. He then left, making Izuku look at him, and he said, "Narakami." Bakugo was about to leave, but then they heard a buzzer and Present Mike said, "Wow, looks like the new challenger started." You see folks, since Shinji Narakami is still in the tournament, he's allowed to pick anyone that won their match and fights them to get their spot to continue, and it looks like he picked to fight Bakugo. Shinji walks towards the arena. He then stops to look at Bakugo and said, "Now Bakugo, let's fight." "Narakami is going to fight Kachan," Izuku said. "He might have a better chance against Bakugo," Tenya said. "Oh yeah, teach him a lesson," Kaminari said, and some of his classmates nodded. "What, you want to fight me? Fine, I'll take you down," Bakugo said, and he goes back to the arena. They stood in the arena, and then Midnight said, "Begin." Bakugo then charges at him and said, "I'll beat you before you can even transform." He got close to him, but then he got hit in the face and thrown to the sides, and Shinji grabs the Zector. It was the Kick Hopper Zector, and the belt appeared on his waist. "Looks like your plan failed," Shinji said, and he then opens the buckle of the belt, Henshin, then he inserts the Zector in. Henshin! Then Shinji transforms into Kamen Rider Kick Hopper. Change Kick Hopper. Kick Hopper looks at Bakugo, who got up and was angry. Bakugo charges at him and tries to blast him, but Kick Hopper ducks underneath his arm and lets the explosion pass by him. Then he kicks Bakugo away. "You have to do better than that," Kick Hopper said. "Why, you bastard?" Bakugo said. Bakugo tries to explode him multiple times, but Kick Hopper dodges each of his attacks while kicking him each time he could. The crowd was stunned. The fight was completely one-sided compared to the last one. Now Bakugo was being thrown away while getting beat up. Bakugo then uses his explosion to rocket him towards Kick Hopper, who just dodged and kicks him in the back, sending Bakugo away. "I won't be beaten by you, no, not by a quirkless," Bakugo said. Bakugo then jumps to the air and uses his explosion to propel himself like a tornado, and he goes towards Kick Hopper. He then charged his most powerful attack, the howitzer impact, and caused a huge explosion where Kick Hopper was. "Wow, did you see that attack?" Present Mike said, surprised. Bakugo lands on the ground and looks as the smoke stopped to reveal that he wasn't there and he got shocked. Clock over. Kick Hopper appears behind Bakugo while in mid-air. Bakugo slowly turns around and then he got kicked in his left arm, breaking it. Everyone got surprised. Bakugo then falls to his knees and holds his arm. He then screams from the pain. "Man, that's gotta hurt," Present Mike said. "In battles you tend to have a broken bone, so this is what pros deal with most of the times," Aizawa said. Bakugo then looks at Kick Hopper, who was looking down at him, then his eyes widen since he did this before. When he was little he looked down at other quirkless while they were in pan. He got up only to get punched by Kick Hopper in the face, then flashbacks of him doing the same appeared while he was getting hit. Kick Hopper then kicks Bakugo in the face, sending him flying away out of the arena, lands out of bounds. "Winner is Shinji Narakami," Midnight said. Kick Hopper looks at Bakugo and said, "That was for all the quirkless that you bullied." He then transformed back and Kick Hopper jumps away. Then May appeared trying to catch him. "Hey, come back. All I want just to know you more and see what makes you work," May said, but that only made it run away faster. "Hey, leave him alone," Shinji said, and he goes to save his friend. Izuku was shocked seeing that. He just got back from checking on Ochako and he saw his former friend getting beaten down like that. It reminded him the times Bakugo would do the same to him, and now he got the same treatment, but it didn't mean that he wanted him to deserve it. "Man, that was brutal," Kaminari said. "But he got that since for being such a crazy guy, he hurt Ochako badly," Kyoka said. "Yes, and like how Professor Aizawa said, we are going to be dealt the same in the real pro work, so this was an experience that Shinji wasn't holding back," Momo said. "Maybe he didn't like Bakugo since when we met him he had like some hate towards quirkless when he called Izuku one," Tsuyu said. "That must be it. Bakugo must have been a bully and Shinji was giving him a just deserves," Mina said. "Well, while I'm not a fan of his ways, he was just teaching Bakugo a lesson, so he's still our friend no matter what," Momo said, supporting Shinji, and they nodded. "Plus Bakugo did try to blow him away with that last attack," Tsuyu said. "Oh yeah, that attack could have put Shinji in a worse state," Hanta said. Bakugo stood there on the floor and he couldn't feel his arm. They couldn't see him since his face was on the ground. If they could, they would see he was crying. "That bastard, he dares to make me look like a loser, like what I did when I was a kid," Bakugo said. Shinji was able to save his friend and goes back to where his classmates were. They looked at him and Momo said, "Shinji, we won't judge you for doing that since Bakugo could have done worse to you from that last attack." "Thank you, I wasn't trying to break his arm, I just made a small mistake on my part," Shinji said. "Well, still that was cool that you were able to dodge that attack," Aijiro said. "Well, thanks," Shinji said. The tournament continued and the last fight was Aijiro versus Tetsu. Tetsu and Aijiro was able to win his match. Now the first round was complete. Now the second one will continue and Shinji took Bakugo's spot from the tournament, will make sure to win the festival. Chapter 6, End of the tournament. I don't own Kamen Rider Kabuto or My Hero Academia. After Shinji defeated Bakugo, it was then Izuku's turn fighting against Shoto. Shinji saw that Izuku wasn't trying to win but to break Shoto mentality and for him to use his other quirk. Izuku was using his quirk to break at Shoto's ice, but he was also breaking his body from each attack. He got what he wanted and Shoto used his fire quirk and won the match. Shinji didn't like that Izuku hurt himself in order to make Shoto use his power. If anything, he would have preferred that Izuku won and let Shoto deal with losing, seeing his stubborn nature made him lose, but Izuku tried to kill himself with that strategy. Izuku was then taken to the infirmary. In the other matches, Fumikage and Tenya won their matches, and it was time for Shini's turn against Aijiro. They went to the arena and Shinji saw Aijiro preparing his quirk to harden his skin. Shinji then raised his arm and then the punch hopper Zector jumps towards him and he catches it, making the belt appear. He opens the slot and he said a henshin. He then slots the punch hopper Zector. Henshin! Then Shinji transforms into Kamen Rider Punch Hopper. Change Punch Hopper. So Narukami has another one that resembles the form he uses against Bakugo. Momo said. Well, then we can have an idea how this one will do. Tsuyu said. Punch Hopper charges at Aijiro and starts to throw multiple punches at him. Aijiro was using his quirk to take less damage and starts to counterattack, but Punch Hopper was dodging each of his punches. He then punches at him with and sees that Aijiro was getting tired from the using his quirk too much. I see, so you're wasting too much energy to block my attacks. That's a weakness you need to correct in the future. Punch Hopper said. Punch Hopper then flips the switch on the Zector and said Rider Punch. He then pulls it back. Rider Punch. He charges his right arm and then punches Aijiro in the chest, making an explosion, and he got sent flying outside of the arena. Shinji Narukami is the winner. Midnight said. Oh man, I lost. Aijiro said. He then saw Punch Hopper in front of him offering a hand and he took it, making Punch Hopper lift him up. Even so, you were able to stand up to my attacks better than Bakugo, so that's something you should be proud of, so get stronger and you'll get better. Punch Hopper said. Aijiro smiled and said you bet it. They then shook hands. Izuku came back and saw that he smiled, then he saw Bakugo on the sidelines watching. He has now a cast on his arm since Shinji broke his arm. He had a look that looked similar to when he was at the start of the festival, but Izuku could see he was destroyed. Shinji destroyed Bakugo's spirit when he broke his arm, like when Izuku won at the Heroes vs Villains training. Next match was Shoto vs Tenya, and Shoto won by freezing Tenya engines. Then it was now Shinji v Fumikage. Shinji looks at Fumikage and then raises his hand up. The B-Zector flies towards him and it then makes the bracer appear. He then grabs the B-Zector and said henshin. He then attaches it to the bracer. Henshin! Shinji then transforms into Kamen Rider the B-masked form. The match started and Fumikage sends his shadow towards the B. The B then flips the Zector around, making the suit open, and he said, cast off. He then pulls the wings. Cast off. Then the armor flew off, hitting the shadow back. Change Wasp. It seems I wasn't able to stop from shedding your armor. Fumikage said. Yes, so now let's see if you can fight me. The bee said. Shadow then tries to slash at the bee, but he jumps away. He then starts to run around Fumikage as he tries to hit him. I wonder why isn't Shinji using that super speed of his? Mina asked. Maybe he's studying Tokoyami's quirk. He's trying to see how fast Tokoyami is before attacking. Momo said. Makes sense since Shinji is pretty smart. Tsuyu said. Izuku sees the fight and wonders the same. He saw the bee evade the shadow with ease and was making sure he didn't fall the same fate as Momo. He saw that Shinji always watched the fights before any of the matches and studied to know what they can do, so he must have gotten some kind of plan. The bee then jumps into the air and Fumikage looks up only to look into the sun, blinding him along with his shadow. The bee jumps over behind Fumikage and roundhouse kicks him away outside of the arena. Shinji Narukami is the winner of this match. Midnight said, and the crowd cheers. That means our final fight will be between Todoroki and Narukami. Present Mike said. The bee looks up to where Shoto was looking down at the fight. He then points at Shoto, making everyone look at him. He then gives him a thumbs down. Wow, Narukami basically said that he was going to defeat Todoroki. Let's see if he can do it. Present Mike said. The way he did it wasn't from arrogance but more like a statement. Aizawa said, and he can agree it with it since Shinji has the better chances to win. This will be amazing, said a guy in the seats. Yeah, it will be Endeavor's son against the new quirkless hero, a woman said. These first years are amazing. That kid was able to reach the finals without a quirk, instead of used those suits to become a hero, said another man. There was now a break time. Shoto was in a waiting room sitting on a chair waiting for the match. He was thinking about what happened and the fact that he used his left side. The door opened and he saw Shinji looking at him. He got surprised and Shinji said, "You know, I saw that match between you and Midoriya. Whatever happened is not my business, but I came here to tell you not to hold back if you want to even stand a chance." Midoriya, he said the same thing. Instead of winning the match he was focused on breaking my barriers. What a fool. Shoto said. "Yes, but whether or not you use your powers I don't care." Shinji said, surprising him, "You see, I heard of your past with your so-called father. I must say that you're a stubborn fool. Let me tell you something, you were given these powers and don't even use half of it. Because imagine if you're a hero out there and need to use flames, well, that mental state will make people die." That Shoto's eye widened. "So I don't care about if you hate your father or not. But if you put people in danger because of your stubborn nature, you're no hero. I chose to be a hero too. Not only inspire the quirkless but also to help others, so think about that." Shinji then leaves Shoto alone. Shinji then goes to his waiting and sits on a chair. He has his eyes closed and waits for the time to come. Then the door opened and he opens one of his eyes. To his shock, it was Mei. "Hey, future husband," Mei said with a big smile. "Handsome, what are you doing here?" Shinji asked. "Oh, come on, call me Mei and I came here to see you," Mei said with a smirk, and she then got close to him. "You are not touching my Zectors. Their things are scared of you," Shinji said. "Oh, don't worry, I'm not here for them, yet," Mei said with a smile. "I came here to see if you would be interested having a support member with you." "What, you want to be my support member? I'm not even a pro yet," Shinji said. "I know, but you did say that any quirkless can become a hero with the right tools, and I bet you were thinking of making some for them," Mei said, and she saw Shinji's reaction that she got it right. "So what do you think, want me to help you make them?" Shinji thinks about it. He would have to make those tools, but he was simply one person. He doesn't like her attitude when she tried to catch one of his Zectors, but he doesn't have a choice. "Alright, but I'll be designing them," Shinji said, making her pout. "Now to show you what I was thinking." He then looks around and found a whiteboard. He then walks up to it and starts to draw on it. Mei watches it and her eyes start to widen and she was getting a big smile. After that, the finals was about to start. Shoto and Shinji were now in the arena staring at each other. Welcome to the final round of the sports festival. In just a moment here we will see which first years will come up on top. President Mike said. The first of the arena light up. We have Shoto Todoroki versus Shinji Narukami. The crowd then cheered and everyone was watching the final match between them now begin. Shoto then shoots a wave of ice towards Shinji. Shinji wasn't worried, and then the Kabuto Zector goes to him and he grabs it. Then he got covered by the ice, making a controlled version of what Shoto used before. Todoroki is starting with a crazy ice blast, President Mike said. Then the ice breaks, making a hole, and then from it came Kamen Rider Kabuto masked form. Henshin. But looks like Narukami got out just fine, President Mike said. He must have transformed at the last minute, Izuku said. Man, these two are insane, Kaminari said. Did you really think that would stop me? Kabuto asked. No, Shoto said, and he then charges at him. I don't think so, Kabuto said, pulling the Zector's horn. Cast off, he then pulled it to the other side. Cast off. Then the armor shoots forward, making Shoto to duck underneath it. Change Beetle. Kabuto was now in his rider form and he then charges forward. Shoto tries to grab Kabuto, but he dodged his arm and then grabbed him by his shirt and throws him to the edge of the arena. Shoto then uses his ice to make a barrier and he then starts to surf on it. Kabuto watches Shoto move around him and he tries to shoot ice. Kabuto then jumps over and charges at Shoto. Shoto then grabs an arm that almost punched him with his left arm. Use your left side, Endeavor said, making Shoto look at him. Do it, Shoto. But that moment of hesitation made Shoto get kneed in the face. Shoto then got sent away and gets up, touching his nose that was bleeding. What's wrong? You're still not going to fight me in your full power, Kabuto said. Narukami let Todoroki grab his arm on his left side on purpose. He's done his research. He then took that open window to strike back and to deal some damage. He's not even doing the same speed that he used against to show how well he can adapt, Aizawa said. Interesting, President Mike said. Kabuto then walks forward to Shoto calmly and said, What's wrong? I told you to fight at me with your full strength. I'm holding back on purpose so that you can at least prove yourself, but looks like I was wrong about you. He then charges at Shoto. Shoto puts his arms down, meaning that he lost his will to fight and gave up. Come on Todoroki, don't give up, do your best. Izuku yelled out, and that caused a reaction to Shoto. Kabuto then got faster and was getting close to him. Shoto's left side then started to burn and he prepared to fire at Kabuto. Kabuto then puts a hand over his right side and Shoto shoots a stream of fire. Clock up, Kabuto said in tapping the belt. Clock up. Kabuto vanished and the fire goes forward. He missed, making everyone wondering where he went. Clock over. Shoto stood there and Kabuto was stabbing behind him back to back with his hand on her Zector's horn. Shoto then lowers his arms and accepted his fate. Rider kick, Kabuto said, pulling the horn. Rider kick. His right foot got charged up and he then rider kicked Shoto away, creating an explosion. Shoto then comes out of the smoke cloud and lands on the floor with a few scratches. Kabuto then points towards the sky to show that he won. Todoroki lost the fight. The winner is Shinji Narukami, Midnight said, and the crowd cheered for him. Izuku saw that even with using his quirk for a bit, Shoto didn't stand a chance. He hoped that it might have changed him, but after Kabuto avoided the hit, Shoto gave up. He was glad that Kabuto won, but he hoped that Shoto could have understood better. After that, the award ceremony was starting. Everyone was gathered around to see the winners. Now it's time for the award ceremony, Midnight said. Then fireworks appeared and from the ground came 3 podiums. They saw Shinji on top of first place, Shoto was second and Fumikage was third. Tenya Ida actually shares the third place, but unfortunately he had to leave for family reasons. Shame he couldn't be here, Shinji said. Now let's bring out the hardware. Of course there's only one person worthy of distributing the awards, Midnight said. Then up in the arena they heard a laugh. Everyone got excited to see All Might and he then jumps off and lands in front of the winners. He then starts to give the medals from third to first place, giving a word to each of them. All Might goes up to Shinji and said, "Well, young Narukami, you have shown the world that being quirkless doesn't mean useless. You have shown great skill and honor in the tournament. You are worthy of being here in UA." He then takes out the gold medal and presents it to Shinji. "I present you this medal," he then puts over Shinji. "I am honored that I have won. I came here to show that being a quirkless doesn't mean that you can't be a hero. When I started here in UA I met many people that became my friends and I made sure I didn't disappoint them since some were counting on me to move on for them," Shinji said, making his friends smile. "Now all I can do is move forwards, make sure that those that believe in me don't stop, as I will move on for everyone that counts on me." Great words, never been spoken before, All Might said, and he even gave him a hug. All Might looks forward to the other students and said, "Don't worry everyone, because any of you could have been standing here too." Shinji then saw Shoto walk up to him. They had to stare at each other for a bit, then Shoto offered him a hand. Shinji looks at it and then he shook it. Well, look at that, young Todoroki and Narukami are now shaking hands. It seems rivalry turned into a new friendship, Midnight said. "Narukami, thank you," Shoto said. "You're welcomed, and I'm sorry if I was harsh on you, but I just wanted you to know," Shinji said, and Shoto nodded. After that, all students were given 2 days to recover. Tenya was at a hospital and found that his brother was in dire state because of the hero killer. Next day, Shinji was at a park sitting on a bench looking around. He then saw a small with red hair kid on the floor being bullied by 3 kids, one having a stone quirk. "Come on, why don't you just accept reality that you're nothing more than just a useless quirkless and can never be hero?" the bully said, and then he and his friends laughed. Then they heard footsteps and looked behind to see Shinji glaring down at them. "How about you buzz off, or I tell that you have been using your quirk badly," Shinji said. "Oh yeah, what are going to do about it?" the bully said. "You know, you say he can't be hero, but it's the opposite, it's you that can't be one," Shinji said, shocking them, while the red-haired kid got surprised. "You bullying others is not the mark of a hero, but that of a villain." That mad ethy bully to start to cry, so buzz off, then he runs away with his friends running after him. Shinji then up to the kid and asked, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, hey, are you the winner of the sports festival?" kid asked. "Yeah, I am," Shinji said. "Then tell me, can I become a hero even if I don't have quirk?" kid asked. Shinji looks at him, then he smiled and said, "Yes, you can become hero." That made him smile. "Don't give up on that dream, no matter what. I'm quirkless too, but I was able to be at UA, so never give up." The kid nodded and runs back home with a big smile on his face. Shinji was happy to help a child and then goes back home. He needs to get ready for when school starts again. To be continued.